Would you look at it? Would you just look at that? It is a beautiful day here in San Diego, and we are on Mission Bay. But you're not here for the view. You're here for a podcast. So there we go. That looks good. So, welcome everybody to a trip down Stoner Drive. I am your host, Shagwell and Bullock, or you guys can call me Shaggy. And today I'm so excited because I get to have my guest, Russ Havens, who is the creator and the founder of San Diego Cannabis Times.
So stoked to be here, Shaggy.
Thank you, man.
Talking about this for a while, and here we are.
We have been talking about it a while. So, for anybody that doesn't know or hasn't seen, maybe on my page, you've seen me do a couple strain reviews. Actually, a lot of strain reviews over the past year and a half.
Dozens, yeah.
And so that opportunity was presented because of Russ and his magazine and everything. And he came into cannabis and we started talking and he's like, how would you like to do some strain reviews? So every couple weeks I get to try some new weeds, some that we carry at cannabis and some that we don't. But
I think I came into cannabis and cold and started talking, just rapping with bud tenders. And I said, if you had somebody here, who would be the very best person to write a strain review? And all your colleagues are like, that guy.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and it's worked out very well. So I've loved the strains we've tried. Most of them have been fantastic. There's a few that haven't, but what's great is just the mystery. Some of the brands I know, so I already have a little preemptive what it's going to be like, and then there's some strains that I've never, or companies that I've never heard of, and so I love those.
Yep. I do try to bring in newer companies pretty soon after I've tried them, and then that's how the strain reviews go, and that's why they're usually pretty good strains. So I do put thought into it. I just don't come up with yada 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 and say, here, tell me what you think.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
No, you actually pick strains that you would like and stuff like that, which I enjoy. Also, what I really loved is occasionally the mystery ones, so you won't tell me what the strain is, and so that's going.
That was a fun deal.
That was a really good job.
Well Greens, we did 5 strains and had to guess gradually with clues over the course of a week, I think.
Of which one it was, and I thought it was. I was right on a couple of them, but there's a few that honestly just throw me off, and that's what's really crazy is because one of them, it was the NF1, is the one that I really remember, and I was off on it. But I've smoked that strain before, and so I think it really shows you what you're doing throughout the day, which can affect the bud as well.
I think that's the unsung portion of figuring out what you're going to feel like. Is it depends on your mood. If you're stressed, you'll feel it in a different way, and if you're in a really good mood and relaxed, then it's just can be even more blissful. Absolutely. But I think our stress levels keep it in check, right?
Yep, and I think sometimes the placebo effect does have it. Perfect. Just wanted to double check the sound, but sounding great, by the way. And if anybody's in the comments, make sure you comment, let us know what you're smoking on. Right now, we are smoking on the OG Kush, or no, the Fire OG, which is the OG Kush and the SFV from Sluggers, which has a nice card on it. I really enjoy. But what got you? Actually, let's start at the beginning. What got you started with the San Diego Cannabis Times, launching it, the idea, and then the process of getting it going?
Well, for 30 years, I've been in newspaper publishing, but always in the realm of business to business publishing. And the newspapers served a great purpose, but it was always a topic that we were covering that I wasn't that keen on. I'll hold off for a bit. Thanks.
Cool.
I wasn't always that keen on the subject matter. But I've been a news junkie since I was a kid. I was 8 years old. I was reading the daily every single day and all of it. And I just love news gathering. But finally, once the industry got moving forward, the cannabis industry, I realized I should start my own publication and do it about a topic that I absolutely love. And cannabis was the one that I chose. And it's been a fascinating time. It will be a fascinating time to cover this industry.
Absolutely. It's just the beginning still.
And spin it locally. But also there's just stories ongoing that are going on and will forever until this thing becomes 100% decriminalized.
Absolutely. Now, besides just the strain reviews, of course, that's what I cover, but what other topics and avenues have you gone with the magazine?
Sure. Well, it really is a news publication. So the current stories we're focusing on right now is the city budget. City of San Diego has needed to cut their budget, and the first target on Mayor Gloria's list was social equity programs across the board. There's climate social equity, there's after school programs, And the cannabis equity program, which had already been started, we sunk tons of money into it. We received a state grant for $880,000, and now they're going to cut the program before they ever awarded a single social equity license in San Diego. And
So what happens to them?
And return that $880,000.
That's what I was wondering. What happens to that money? So
that
they
money
return?
goes back to Sacramento. Jeez. Yeah, it's just infuriating.
Absolutely.
And it would have created jobs. It would have created opportunities for people to be in a business that have been, frankly, just barred from entry because of things that are now legal. And it absolutely is frustrating. And it's really frustrating the city is choosing to go this route.
Absolutely. No, and make sure you check out JM or Joanne's documentary that is coming out. She just had a release on 420, but Roll Up Equity, which is
focused on that, and it was called Roll Up for Equity, and she debuted it on the evening of 420. And it was really fun to see. But it's fun to see friends and like-minded people, but it's frustrating to know that we needed to make that documentary, that JM needed to make that documentary.
It's very unfortunate. So some other news that is going on, not only with the local, but federally, is the potential descheduling, because it has not rescheduling. Yep. So I'm going down from a class 1 to a class 3, which it's a really good first step. But what are your thoughts when you initially heard it?
Well, I mean, sure. I think everybody kind of had a moment where we were waiting for it. We've known about it for a long time that it was possible. And I think everybody kind of had an initial cheer. But I think everybody needs to take a back seat and sit back and really think about what it is going to change.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things that might go in a really good way, like medical research on using cannabis, now that it's not considered to have zero benefit.
Yep.
Now, if it's Schedule 3, I think that'll open up some research avenues. But when it comes to, I don't know how many patents are in the wings right now from big pharma companies. But,
exactly.
We really got to make sure we do this right. We've had a lot of weird starts to programs in cannabis.
Yes.
And I think at the end of 2 years, every time we look back at a given program and say, I wish we did this differently.
Yep.
And I'd like
even with the legalization in
California, will be the same situation, or I'd like to think this won't be the same situation.
Yeah. No, and I completely agree with it. Or rescheduling down. Now it's on the level of Tylenol, ketamine, things like that.
Right.
And so it kind of scares me that the FDA is going to try to take control of it, and pharmaceuticals, and be like, oh, well, you know what? Now we have to control it because it is a pharmaceutical, and not allowing more mom and pops and other people to own equity in it.
It is a step towards the overall normalization process, and again, with the ultimate goal of decriminalization. But we need to make sure we're doing these steps correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's obviously that's right. That's another story. And other things are constantly things happening in the county. So San Diego County Social Equity is going to get off the ground. They've named a person to head up that program, so that's progress. And then there's always license changes, cities opening up.
Okay.
Santee is on a slow roll to cannabis retail.
Yep.
Oceanside as well.
I heard Escondido as well. I'm not sure what was going on with that.
3 really major cities in the county: El Cajon, Escondido, and Carlsbad.
Yeah.
None of them have even broached the issue, but they will. Everybody comes around at some point. So there's lots of excitement coming.
That's the thing. Our money's starting to talk, which is nice. And that's why I've always told people, like, well, you don't think it's going to be legal, or when do you think it's going to be legal? I'm like, it will. And they're like, well, when? I'm like, about 2 to 5 years is my guess, before the next election, not this one, but the following one. But it's because our money will speak louder than the pharmaceuticals and the textiles and the oils and all the tobacco, all these guys we are fighting. So it's not our money versus like anybody else, or like to help the government. It's our money versus the other lobbyists. And so now our money is starting to talk, which will change laws, which is nice. Well, we were talking about strain reviews. You focus on news that's going around, but another thing you do is also focus on shops, and the shops that are in an area. What are some key things that you've seen at the shops that you really like? And then what are some things that you see at some shops that you're like, they could really improve, that they are not doing that other shops are?
Yeah, these are all kind of personal preferences, right? I mean, overview, I don't dig on being told I have to have a basket in a shop. I mean, I just feel no. It's kind of an odd way to start out this conversation, but I like it when the products, you can reach out and touch products. I like it when you have the ability to at least smell a sample jar, take a good look at a nug. But what I really focus on though is what do the labels provide in terms of information. And there's certain growers that do a great job explaining what's in their flower, and they'll give you a breakdown on terpenes with a visual chart, not just a percentage you have to work out. So some of those groups, like No Till Kings, is great with that. I know you're a fan.
Oh, absolutely.
Josh Wax is great that way. There's a lot of labels that are like that. Mocha Humboldt is kind of new on the market here, and they do a great job explaining what the benefits would be of a given strain.
Absolutely. And I love that. I mean, a year ago, you might have seen 1-2 companies that involved the terpenes in the total cannabinoid. And now you see almost everyone do it, at least like somewhat, not even to a good
stranglers out there.
Yeah, not even on like the best of it, but at least they're including it in partial.
So labs right here, they give you zero information about their strains.
And that is one thing beforehand too. You also saw it was only specific names, and they create their names and stuff like that, where now you're starting to see them at least playing the crosses or the things like that, so you can explain it.
Of what the actual it's like a translation for you.
Yeah. And I think that's good because it's also showing the knowledge of the customer and how much they're wanting to learn, and the
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I personally keep a chart. I have an Excel spreadsheet of every strain I ever had. And then when I have the information available, I have a column for terps.
Absolutely.
And then I can isolate the strains I like the most and then say, what do they have in common? I can start right there with, pinene, like a gassy
exactly.
There you go. You learn things like that, and it's fun.
Oh, absolutely. And it just makes it easier to explain to the customer when I can show them instead of trying to just explain from my knowledge, because our knowledge can go back through documentaries, other things like that. So it's the best way of how to explain it to somebody that pretty much knows nothing as a way.
Yeah. How long have you been at it? When did you start with cannabis?
No, so total, probably about 13 years of consuming, 10 years of heavy knowledge. Even when I was dealing back in Virginia, I was watching documentaries, I was reading articles, I was the dealer that you come over. I'm like, do you want to know like why you feel high and like how it interacts in your body? Like, wouldn't explain to everybody, but I was like, hey, I just learned. I was just like, hey, like I found out like why we feel high. Like, do you want to know? And sometimes we're smoking.
I did not have detailed information about his strain.
I always loved it, and so like some people didn't care about names. I cared about names just because I wanted to like learn the profile of it, and like I knew some wouldn't be, and sometimes they're making up names, but if you get enough Blue Dreams, like that was the first strain I could distinguish, because okay, well, this person gave me something and said it was Blue Dream, but I had like 5 in a row that were Blue Dream, and I could taste it, the similarities.
I'm like
and
that
so
with blue strains.
Yep,
I'll try just about anyone.
Exactly.
Well,
and so you learn. And then so I had about 3 years of that, but I've been in the legal market for almost 7 years now. So I moved out about 7.5 years ago, and it took me about 6 months to get into the industry. Just hit. So I actually just hit my 7 years. So about 6.5 years I've been in the legal industry. And it's been fantastic though. I've learned so much, from tour companies to dispensaries to being in brands, marketing, done pretty much everything but grow the plant itself. And so, my knowledge just goes beyond and beyond, but I'm also one that's not just in the industry. Like, this is my only passion, the only thing I'm ever going to do. So
that's the thing about the legalized. We've all been at it about the exact same amount of time. And that from a legalized standpoint. But we all have very different backgrounds before that.
Exactly. And so it's really nice, talking the differences of strains, of even vapes. We did check it out soon, but I have our vape strain coming out. Hey, Tyler. Thank you. Hey, there we go. FDA getting bold. It'll be weird. Treated more like alcohol. Hopefully, yes. That's what we're eventually hoping is I hope the brands can eventually be kind of like beer, is the different styles. So you have your Bud Lights, your fruits, the things that are low, but then you have your craft beers and things like that. And that's the way I kind of explain to people of edibles is, well, this says 10 milligrams and this says 10 milligrams. Why would I choose different? And I'm like, well, look at your beers. You can have a Bud Light that's like 4.5%, 5%, and I can go have a pale ale that's 4.5%, 5%. But the complete process of feeling, how I feel after, everything involved in the ingredients creates a whole different effect.
Edibles is a whole other ballgame in terms of what you've already got in your stomach.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a huge difference. I've had things like a Breeze tablet take 2 hours to hit.
Absolutely.
If I recently had a meal and I took them. So I don't usually take them after a meal.
Well, speaking of edibles, and this can kind of go into the next subject, the marathon, is understanding your tolerance. So June 2nd, less than 1 month, I will be competing in the Rock and Roll Marathon in San Diego. It is a marathon, is just over 26 miles. So it's going to be very intense.
This guy.
And awesome. I will be doing it on a full syringe of FSO oil, full spectrum oil, which is close to 1,000 milligrams. Actually, I'll show you right now. But this is what I'll be consuming for the race from Friendly. This is the chocolatine or the Chocolope. I'm going to try to see if they have one of their other ones. I really love their Maui Wowie. But with the FSO, this is testing in at 766 milligrams. So I'm going to start the race with this and also a couple bong rips just because that's how I start every morning.
You need to stay in your rhythm.
I need to keep at the level.
Yeah.
It starts at 6:15, so I have to be there around 5:30 is my guess, 5:40, so I can get ready to take off.
Where does this all start at Petco?
It's right by there, so it's like not University Heights, but near there. Is where it starts. We'll go through Normal Heights, University Heights, go down by Point Loma. It cuts up right by SeaWorld, goes almost to Linda Vista, like the edge, and then cuts back down all the way to downtown near Petco.
That's where you run over the
and so that's going to be
cool, I think.
Oh, it's going to be incredible. Awesome. I am so excited that they do have parts of it closed off, so I'm going to be able to run spots that I would never be able to run any other time of the year.
I love that part of the park.
So it's really great. But speaking of edibles and tolerance and things like that, with the FSO, it's understanding my tolerance and how edibles affect me. And that's what a lot of people need to understand too, is do as I say, not as I do. So I do not recommend anybody take the amount that I'm going to consume unless you understand your body. But most people, I'm going to talk about an enzyme that helps break down edibles. So
we talked about this before. I would love to have a refresher.
So smoking cannabis and taking edibles are completely different. I mean, they affect you kind of the same, but you can have a high tolerance to smoking and a low tolerance to edibles. And I've known people to have a high tolerance to edibles, but a single joint can knock them out. So it's understanding how your body digests it before it gets into your system. And so in your liver, you have an enzyme that helps break down the THC in the edibles. This is called the CPY2C9 enzyme. And what it does is it breaks it down before it enters your system. And so this is somewhat tied to your metabolism, but also not. So, but mostly people with a higher metabolism, their enzyme has a chance to be hyper. So most people have a normal enzyme. So if you take 5 to 10 milligrams, in 45 minutes to an hour, 15 hour and a half, it's going to kick in. It's going to last probably between 2 to 4 hours, depending how much you consume edibles, things like that. Then there are people, and they can push it a little bit. If they take a lot of edibles, they can go up to 25, 50 milligrams, maybe even 100 with the people with a normal enzyme, just depending how much they're consuming constantly. Then there's people like myself that have a hyperenzyme. And I don't know how to test this, things like that, but it's just you understand through your experience in testing things where it is. And so I've been one that no matter how much I've consumed cannabis or how little, that when I took edibles, they just never affected me. Like people would say, oh man, these are the strongest edibles I've had, try them. I'd buy a few, nothing, waste $40. And so I was always wondering why edibles never affected me. And so then I came to California and I started working and I'd take more and more. And like eventually I found my limit to be about 500 to 700 milligrams to feel it. And that's why I'm not smoking at all. That's just
hyperenzyme.
This is because of the hyperenzyme. And it also, I think it involves, I need to say this, but like other painkillers, things like that, I think it helps break down as well. So like, I'm not saying this with knowledge. This is just my assumption. So about the other painkillers, but I've always had a high tolerance to certain painkillers, Advil, Tylenol. None of that really seemed to help
than
Yeah,
typical,
and
or does increasing the dosage even help?
sometimes doesn't even help. So like when I have a headache or something like that,
Oh.
I don't take aspirin. I used to try it, but like it just wouldn't work. Like I have an ache, I tried Tylenol, stuff like that. It just doesn't really, I don't feel it. It doesn't affect me. And so I don't take it often or anything like that. And then I even had in college, I had a buddy who would try different painkillers for fun. And so he brought me Oxycontin, Percocet, and even a morphine pill. And I just feel it, couldn't tell the difference of that or smoking weed. And so I always chose cannabis over any of those, no matter what is going on. Even when I broke my leg, I used cannabis.
So is it a curse or a blessing?
I think a little both. I think because like the tolerance and everything, it's allowed me to manage pain and handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And so things that are painful or would hurt a lot of other people, it doesn't hurt me, but also like, sometimes I might push myself through like further stuff. Like running the other day, my knee was bothering me. I just kept pushing it and made it worse later on. So, it's a little give and take. But with the edibles, realizing the hyper enzyme and how much I have to take. So when I take it, it edibles break down to almost nothing when it enters my system. So that's why the 100, the 200,
some
the
of these numbers that
300
you're about to throw at us about your day running on in June, it aren't numbers that apply to most people because you have this hyperactive enzyme.
Exactly. And so a lot of people, like when I'm taking 500, that would be like you taking your 5 or your 10. And that's for me to feel it.
That's a massive disclaimer right there.
When you're taking your 50, I'm having to take close to 1,000. And then it's also understanding with it tied to your metabolism. When you're doing something active, it is also help bring in more. Sure. So that is also part of it. So if I just sit there and take 700 milligrams compared to me running and doing something active on 700 milligrams, it's going to affect me different as well. And so
it's the best example of that. You'll get smoked out and then you'll go out and do it for 45 minutes and it's like, hey, I thought I was stoned, but I'm not.
Exactly. And so it's understanding that, and that's why I'm taking more because I know it's going to burn off. It's to show a more excessive amount, but it's also to show that your cannabis doesn't make you lazy. That lazy is coming from you, your ambition, your drive, your discipline, but also understanding what strains you're using. Like I'm not using an indica during this race because I don't want that heaviness blanket on my body. Now, maybe the last bong rip I take, like I know after once I finish the race, I'm smoking indica. I want everything for the body relief, but during the run, I want sativas only. I want that light, uplifting feeling. Sure. I want to be in my head. I don't want to be in my body, and it also helps with joint pain. That's where it really helps. Is because I'm using the cannabis, I'm able to go a little further because I'm not thinking about the pressure on my knees or on my back or any of that. I'm thinking about the song I'm singing in my head, about the headphones. I like look over and I start thinking about like that tree or that bush or what's going on. And then I like go back to it. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a race. And you just keep going and going. And so it allows you to do that. But using the sativas, the THCV, which is a booster, helps with fighting the munchies as well, which is nice. And so using these is going to help me continue my run. To kind of get me out of my head and do everything I need to. But that's understanding that hyperactive. And then also I do want to explain there are people that have a slowed enzyme or a delayed enzyme. And so these are the people, and you'll hear them, that they'll take 2 to 5 milligrams. They won't feel it in an hour. They'll feel it in 3-4 hours, and then it will hit them like a ton of bricks.
And they'll have thought that it didn't work, and they'll double up on their dose like an hour in or something. And it's like,
sometimes they'll do that. Yep. And that can be people with normal too. Sometimes they're not just giving the amount of time to do that.
Well, I think for newcomers to the culture.
Exactly. But the delayed is, and I've told my friends, take one, wait about an hour and a half, and do something where you're not watching the clock. Don't be like, oh, it's an hour, I don't feel it, let me take another. Give it the good hour and a half, watch a movie, hang out with friends, do things like that. And then if it doesn't hit after an hour and a half, then you can take a little bit more. But you can always take more, you can never take less. But yeah, like it sucks for the people with the delay too. And so it's just understanding your body and how edibles work. And that's a big reason why I'm taking so much more for this race.
If I can pop in here real quick, you mentioned motivation in cannabis earlier on. And just yesterday, I shared a study that was done by 4 psychological research organizations. And they have found no connection between motivation or even paranoia two of the most common misconceptions about cannabis use. Neither of those turned out to be true. This was co-authored by 4 different psychological groups, 1 in Europe, 3 in North America. And it's on my site if you want to check it out. But I thought it was really an interesting counterpoint to the the low information folks that just want to spew what they think they knew from the 50s.
Absolutely. And like it allows you to relax, it allows you to calm. Cannabis can, but when you're using the right strains and for the right reasons. And so that's why you need to use what you can. But yeah, the term lazy stoner and the motivation is just complete BS, because think about probably the 2 or 3 biggest stoners in the world that you can think of. Snoop Dogg, Cheech and Chong,
Seth Rogen,
like Seth Rogen,
consistent output.
Who are putting out the most? Snoop Dogg is in everything. He has albums. He's a bowl game just got announced yesterday. College bowl game next year, going to be the gin and juice.
You have Juice Bowl, or
the gin and juice bowl. You have him in rapping. He's put out country albums. He's put out reggae albums. He's been in Indian like pop, dozens of movies. He's now has a kid show that like helps like teach and everything. He was with Martha Stewart. He's got his cannabis.
No boundaries anymore.
There is nothing holding him back. And he's the biggest cannabis smoker you can think of. But anytime somebody says cannabis, Snoop Dogg's the first. And think about like all the things he does. There's zero laziness in everything he's done.
I can tell you. Yeah, I started a business and it was fueled on the daily cannabis, and it had zero effects of slowing me down.
And that was the one thing is since I've started using since I was about 14 or about 15 or 16. And when I was only doing little bits here or there, but like when I was doing it more full time, I was working. I never wanted a single job to come to me and say, you need to stop smoking, like you're slacking or whatever. I was every single job you can call from the time I was 14 to now. I'm the hardest worker, the best worker at every single job. And it was because I didn't want the term lazy stoner to be applied to me ever. And so it was almost motivation. I will not have people bring down the plant because they look at me and they say, oh, you don't want to be like Shaggy. Like, and
Oh, I do have thoughts about this. And I think that age is a big part of it. And I think kids in their teens, I've got a son who's 17. I've implored him, just don't until you're 25.
Yeah.
You don't need, you just don't wait till your brain's fully cooked.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen people we had a kid at a factory. I worked at a factory in high school and we just cranked all day making surfing products. And one kid's nickname was Snail because he was just so slow and just stoned entirely all the time. We all were, but it didn't affect us all to be slow.
No.
But we were young though. And I would advise, that's my kind of strict advice for my kids, but and it's advice. They can do what they want, but I don't think they're interested.
So. No, and I don't think it should be, we had to hide it and stuff when we were kids. And so you had to do more work, where now it's just like kids have like a pen or whatever. And it's like, come on now. Like, at least we had to do things around, like if we were trying to sneak, same thing with beer and stuff. But no, I think with the legalization of cannabis that
all the 80s was sneaking around to score.
To do whatever. And then so like we were at my friend's place, we would climb out the window, go drive down like 4 miles away, be smoking by a tree, chilling, go back, sneak back in, trying not to, it was just so much work.
Bountiful for 2 months a year.
Everybody had
the rest of the year was a bitch.
And everybody else had, like, you had a box too of, I had eye drops, I had breath spray, I had gum, I had like
Odium.
You had
Odium spray.
So you had everything, like, to get away of to get it through. So
stock and Visine, all that.
So you kids are spoiled nowadays, but shouldn't be using it. I do think with the legalization, it should be accessible to the people that need it, but I don't think everybody should be consuming as well. Like no matter what your age, it's not
for everybody.
No.
It is for me though.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then the last part about the marathon that I did want to say is, so a big reason why I'm using the FSO is one, using so much edibles is a lot of sugar. I've tried it for my races. I did the Spartan trifecta last year. So I did a 5K, a 10K, and a 20K or a half marathon. On the 5K, I did 500 milligrams. On the 10K, I did 700 milligrams, and on the half marathon, I did a full syringe of FSO as well. So it was more like
And generally,
800 or so.
You're using?
I try to when I can and have access to choose. That's what I do, because it's just so much easier to. It feels like a weight is off of you, and you almost feel a tiny bit lighter. And so little things like that can really help, especially when you're doing long distances that you never had. Like, I hated running. I'm not gonna lie. I did not like running. Like as a kid, I hated. I still hate running. I do still hate running. Honestly, why am I doing a marathon though? But I love a challenge. And so, like, as long as you had one little thing in there, like, I am up for a challenge. And so, my sister, who is older than me, she is smaller than me though. She works out all the time, like all the time, is fit. And she was like, "Well, I'm doing the sparring thing." I was like, "Well, all right, I'll do it with you." And then she was like, "Well, I'm doing the trifecta." I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna let you beat me." Like, I thought like a little motivation, and I love her to death, but like, I'm not gonna let my bigger little sister beat me in this stuff. And so, yeah, it's always been like motivating to kind of compete. And but the reason the FSO is because a lot of people don't realize, but medical patients have to consume one of these a day or multiple times a day, entire syringe. Their tolerance gets so high that it's not just me, but it's people with tumors, cancer, Parkinson's, even epilepsy might start with CBD, and you'll see a lot of these stories, but a lot of times they will eventually switch to a 1-to-1 and be taking just as much THC as the CBD throughout, because it's nice to have the full cannabinoids, not just one. And so
I think who is it? Team Elite Genetics has got one called Critical Cure, which is a CBD to THC flower.
See, and it's really good, and that's what we should all be consuming, but we get caught up in everything. And so, like, even myself, like, I don't incorporate as much CBD as I need to. But patients are taking this daily, and my dad's actually, I'm talking to him right now, I'm gonna have better results of what he records, but my dad's battling colon cancer right now, and is taking 3 grams a day daily of FSO. And so it's to kind of bring awareness to the people what they're having consumed just to function and maintain and live. And so this might seem like a lot for a lot of people and a lot for me to do a marathon on, but honestly, there's people that are taking these every single day, and we need more access to these. So unfortunately, I didn't prep enough this time, but I eventually would like to work with companies, work with sponsors, and finding ways to get this medicine in people's hands a lot easier and a lot more affordably too.
Well, make sure you stay in touch with Safe Access San Diego. That's what they're all about, is making sure that the entire county has access. And there's so much of this county that you have to go a long way to find.
Absolutely.
Find a retailer.
Well, I appreciate it. So let's that's on the marathon. Do you have any more questions or so? That's what I'm thinking. Dab, and then we'll get into just questions about you.
No, but I do plan on.
Cool.
I do plan on writing a story about Shaggy's, essentially get what his plan is going to be, detailed as much as we can. And then I'm also volunteered to be one of his bong posts somewhere in the Normal Heights range, and be a pit stop for him.
Yeah,
and
so
I'd be happy to offer that to you.
Every 5 miles, I will, on top of the FSO, on top of my bong rips beforehand, I will have somebody like Russ or my sisters or somebody else posted up with a bong packed for me, or a dab rig, or whatever smoking device, and a few more edibles as well, because we're gonna, since this is 760 milligrams, then I still need about another 250 milligrams. So on top of the bong rip, I'm going to make sure that they have some FSO tablets from Emerald Sky, and then that way the total milligrams equals 1,000 milligrams for the race.
And I assume you'd love it if people chimed in with suggestions for this particular activity and what you can do to minimize the wear and tear on your body that day.
Oh, absolutely. Any advice would help. I have had people send me mints, electrolytes, granola bars, training programs, things like that. So I really appreciate any of that help, and it's needed. Sometimes I just don't know, and you have to learn from people that have done it. So yesterday, not adding enough electrolytes, even though I didn't work out yesterday, just not adding enough electrolytes throughout my working out throughout the week. It just dehydrated me to the point where I got so dizzy I almost had to puke and almost pass out. So
it's dehydration is really something. It's horrible.
I've dealt with it before,
I'm a massive coffee drinker, so I don't drink enough water.
Yeah.
telling you, man, you just get cramps when you cough or whatever. It's not fun.
And so it's understanding. So any advice you have, I would appreciate it, because this is my first marathon at 30 years old, which is insane. But
yeah, that's something about your health, man. That's so great for you, Shaggy. I'm
I
proud of you.
appreciate it. And yeah, only 0.01. It's like 0.17% of the world has done a marathon. And so it's less than 1%. And so not only will I be doing that, but I'll be doing 1,000 milligrams of edibles. So anything you can do, I can do better, because anything you can do, I can do stoned.
Well, your sister reached out to me yesterday and said she's hiking Everest in 2 years. So you're going to need to catch up with her. Next one of these adventures will be with you at the top of Everest with a Puffco.
Hey, if they're willing to pay for it, I'm willing to take the challenge. But fuck, I hate the cold. I hate the cold so much. But I'm excited, and we are about to smoke on some Glutopia. I did drop a little glob in there. Yeah, from CBX. There's sugar.
The best strain they've had in a long time. I love
so it'll vibrate when it's ready to go, and it might take a little puff at the beginning. Like I had to pull a little hard, and then it goes. There it goes. But take as little or as much as you want. I got the Puffco last week as a little present to myself to get ready, and it's been fantastic. I love electronic dab rigs, because I just hate the process of pulling everything out. So this just makes it so easy.
I can limit it to that one cough. I'll be right. That tastes so good. And you've had the flower version of this, right?
Oh yeah.
I actually went through 3 jars of it because I like that flower so much.
What I love is also with the 5 miles, for me, it's the next obstacle. So like when I did the Spartan races, the mud runs, things like that, it was always next obstacle. So it wasn't how much have I run or anything. And so for me, this race, it's the next bong rip, the next bong rip, the next bong rip. And so by the time I've done the 5th one, I'm almost there. And then I'll be done.
Oh, man.
The only thing that, and I should be good, because so far I do 10 miles in about 2 hours, roughly has been my time. So if I can continue roughly about that pace, then I should be able to do the race in about 5 to 6 hours. But I have to be finished by 7. 7 is the finish. So if you don't finish in 7 hours, you technically didn't finish the marathon.
Oh, no.
And I didn't know that.
I don't even want to know that.
Yeah. So I have 7 hours to complete this marathon. So it starts at 6:15. I have to be done by 1 o'clock. Pretty much, or pretty much 1 o'clock.
For it to count and be recorded.
Yes.
But I assume
but if I just finish, I don't care. Shit.
9,
yeah.
There's still people that trudge through.
Yeah.
Too much of them. Like
there's gonna be weak. But my goal is to finish in the time, have it done. Sure. And I think I can. I think I can get 7 hours. Like,
and I'll be cheering you on.
Yeah.
Literally, we'll be right there. Yeah. I can't wait. That's
what I can't wait for.
It's a great day for the city. I mean, it really is fun. I love that it goes through and so many different parts of the city, and the fact that again, that stretch of 163 through Balboa Park is a special place, and you get to run on it. That's cool.
And shout out to Megan and Riley who took on the challenge, and not my dog Riley, who's down here, and Scooby down there. But to them, they put out the challenge to our friend group, and I couldn't let them do it without me. So
are you running alongside anyone?
It'll be us 3, but we've also talked, and it's like we'll try to keep with each other, but if pace changes. Like I don't want to get injured because I'm trying to speed up or trying to slow down to keep up with them, and vice versa. Like
you got to synchronize a lot of things you can't synchronize.
And they've been running and training a lot more than I have, but I also have a lot longer legs than them. So it just kind of, we'll go at our own pace. And if we're beside each other for most of it, that's awesome. But if we split up, it is what it is. So the biggest thing,
it's going to be a fun day. And
exactly. Sure and then we're all going to meet up afterwards and do something. And what's really cool is I already have that whole week is absolutely insane. I have
afterwards, the week leading up to it.
Both. So I took 2 weeks off of work. The last week in May, the first week in June, because I had my niece's graduation up in Riverside. So my sister's flying down, and we're going up to meet my other sister. And then just found out 2 days ago, my sister-in-law, unfortunately, my brother can't make it. He's working, but my sister-in-law is flying in for the marathon as well. And then actually the following week,
God.
after the marathon, I am ordaining my first wedding. So I'll be enjoying my friend's wedding.
So that's coming up quick. You know, you mentioned that to me earlier. Cool.
So, yep,
What a
all in
fun
one
dude,
week.
man.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, well,
It's
best
gonna
of
be
luck to you.
insane. Thank you. But let's let the people know about you a little bit, and we'll wrap up the show. So I just want to ask you a couple quick questions.
Sure.
You know, just top of your head. If I ask you about movies or music, it doesn't have to be stoner related, but what you like to listen to when you're consuming, smoking, or stoned.
Sure.
So first off, what is your favorite way to consume? Is it joints, blunts, bongs, edibles? What do you love?
Yeah, I think bong rips the most. But I do use that little Hitoki Saber pretty damn often.
I remember
And,
that.
that one's really clean way to smoke.
That was really nice. And what I liked is you could do it on the device or you could put it in a bong or so, which was really,
that's
really
truly
cool.
the best of both worlds when you pull the device away from the globe and stick it in your downstem. That works really, really well. Yeah, that's my preferred way though. And I'll do pre-rolls. I'm not, I'll eat edibles once in a while. The Josh Wax has got these 50 milligram bomba suckers.
Heck yeah.
Off the charts good.
Yeah. And yeah, I'll dabble in everything, but nothing beats my bong. I love
I
the
don't
bong.
dab much. I had a Puffco like a year and a half ago, but I haven't had one since. And I don't dab. That's the one thing I typically don't do. But if it's sitting in front of me,
why not? Right. Do you have a favorite strain?
I kind of alluded earlier to my love for glue. And originally, like you said, Blue Dream was my first love.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and green crack extreme.
Nice.
Too.
Love that.
And I grow every year too, but I rarely smoke when I grow because it just isn't anywhere near as enjoyable as what others are.
Absolutely. What is a movie or a show you like to watch when you're high?
Recently, I think Poor Things was pretty good.
Poor Things. What's that?
Poor Things. It's Gary Oldman and Emma Stone. And it's a guy that was nominated for Best Picture this year. Check it out.
I'll have
Visually,
to check that.
it's absolutely stunning.
Nice.
Yeah. And there's more traditional ones. I still think Pineapple Express is hilarious.
Absolutely. No, gotcha.
That's one of the greats.
If you could be, you're in that 70s show, you got your little circle. So what are 3 people you could smoke with, dead or alive?
Do they have to be famous?
Nope. It could be a family member. It could be
my best friend.
So do a friend's one and then do a famous one.
Geez. People who would actually smoke pot though, so I can't say something like okay, I'd like to get stoned with Neil Young.
Okay.
Love to get high with this is a tough one, Shaggy. I don't think about it like this.
Right.
It's not gonna happen, right?
I mean, it's good to have the dreams. I mean, even if it's somebody that's passed away that you'd like to pick their brain.
God, yeah, well, too many of those, right? That's for sure. Anyway, let's my friends though, I love to crack on with my friends Chris, my friends Todd, my friend Scooter, my friend Robert. Those are my 4 mainstay buddies.
Okay.
We all met in junior high or high school.
Nice.
Or even earlier.
What is a funny or favorite moment you've had either buying or selling weed?
A long time ago I went into a Spring Valley trap shop. And that wasn't so much funny. It was more an absolute, it was sad. Somebody had commandeered a construction trader that was up on blocks. And somebody just took it over for like 5 days and everybody in there didn't even know where they were. It was hardcore. It was gnarly. And that's kind of the saddest thing I've ever seen is when, I don't know, that sticks with me for some reason. Yeah, as far as buying pot, I mean, I said earlier, when I was a kid, it was like show up at the Burger King parking lot at the right time and get a
absolutely
an eighth. And the only words we had for it was Sinsemilla or Indica. And I'm pretty sure that we didn't know what those words even meant. You know what I mean? There was no choosing a strain.
Yeah. Now with the magazine, where would you like to see it become? Or if you could get your magazine in front of one person, what would you like the future to be?
It's not one person. I think the biggest thing I want to do with the site is invest more into it so I can have reporters flesh out stories. I share a lot of information and not enough of it is original to my site. Quite a few is because nobody else really does this. So most everything you see, you're not going to see anywhere else. But on national stories, I can't dedicate investigative research time into stories as much as I'd like. So that would be the one thing that I'd like to do better. But I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. When there's news breaks, it changes every every day what a new story is going to be. And I live for following those stories as they benefit and promote and normalize cannabis consumption, obviously here in San Diego County, but all over the country.
Absolutely. I love it. And then what is a piece of advice you give to somebody that's trying to maybe start their own business in the cannabis industry or trying to start their avenue in the cannabis industry?
Research a lot, try and figure out what's going to happen before it happens. I mean, that's I think that maybe that's obvious, but I think none of us realize. Be ready, and this is going to sound cliche almost by now. Be ready to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
That phrase shouldn't be cliche yet.
No,
but it is. You know, you got to be ready to take on different modules to your business if they complement it. You got to be open to that.
absolutely.
So that's a big part. That's a big piece of advice. Be open to change.
Awesome. And is there any questions you have or anything else you want to say? Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know. We visit all the time, and I really enjoy every minute we spend because you are one of the most peaceful, positive brothers I've ever met in my life.
I really appreciate that,
no
Russ.
problem, man. And we'll do some more of these.
Oh, absolutely. And then can you tell people just where to find you, the website or social media?
Yeah, I'm at San Diego Cannabis Times.com. It's primarily a news site, but then also my Insta. I post absolutely everything to my Insta account, so it's at San Diego Cannabis Times. So follow me there, and thank you, Shaggy. This was a fun day.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Russ.
Yeah, buddy.
Make sure to check out the next strain reviews, which will be on vapes. And you want to know why the Vuber is one of the best batteries to grab and why I love it so much.
Yes, indeed. We're doing a summertime vape review because it's the season to be on the go. And Shaggy just looked at 5 or 6 different devices, and I'm going to write it up soon, and we're going to have it all together.
Absolutely. Here's a look at a couple of them. And I appreciate anybody that's been on. Make sure you comment, like, share so we can grow this show. And next week, I have some great guests because I have Josh from Farmers Cup, which will be the week before his event. So 5/18, not this Saturday, but next Saturday will be the Farmers Cup. And it's going to be incredible. You figure out who won. Best indoor flower, outdoor flower, edibles, dabs, everything. And those events are always a great time. And then on the 14th, I will be going to the Grizzly Peak office, and I will be interviewing David Gash, the owner of Grizzly Peak. So learn about their flower, learn about the Blizzy blunts that just won best blunts in San Diego. They are in California. They've won so many awards, and they have so many great stories to tell. So I'm excited, so excited to meet David and have him on the show. So I appreciate you, Russ. And this has been a trip down Stoner Drive.